are and whenever you have the opportunity to join me. I'm Dr. Jan. You are joining me at Russell Institute of Learning Sidebar Education, and we are looking at renewing education. You know, the tagline to Russell Institute of Learning is powered by the WHERE concept. That happens to be my maiden name. And I'm just so grateful. God knew all in advance this is where I was to be and what I was to be doing. And WHERE now stands for Working at Renewing Education. And that has been my focus and my love and my longing that he put in me, because you know what? I never wanted to be a teacher. Both my parents are teachers, coming to find out. My grandfather even had his teaching certificate. Aunts and uncles are teachers, and I saw how hard they had to work, and I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to be rich. But you know what? God has made me very rich in love for children, love for education, because of the love for him. He has brought all of this together, and so I am very thankful for such a time as this. I have a great example. You know, we've started looking at, in renewing education, some definitions, going back, looking at my research, which was characteristics of contemporary U.S. middle schools. And middle school is characterized as grade 4 through 9, depending on some schools, how they divide them into middle school, junior high, those kind of things. And again, like I said, there's a lot of things that have changed in education, but nothing's really changed. And that's where I'm wanting to start the conversation. Well, what are we going to do different? And that in my research, we were looking at three main areas that I found are instrumental in impacting students and their education. First, that it needed to be child-centered learning, and that we need to find out where the child is, start with the child, make sure that community individuals are involved with them and being able to train them, teach them, because there are topics that as a teacher, I can teach it out of a book, but you've got a community person who comes in and does an excellent job and gives practical life experience. Then we have the democratic decision making. That, you know what, every person who is an invested stakeholder, from the child, the parent, the teacher, their administrators, community people, should have some kind of input into what would this education look like, what is our outcome, what is our goal and our purpose, even though you still may have a small segment of that group who will make the final decision, but they can't make the best decisions without knowing all of the input. So those are my three main focuses that I have, and there are subpoints under, and depending on how detailed we get, I will share those as well. And eventually I will post the link to my research, the dissertation, that if you would really want to dig in and read about the difference, as I mentioned yesterday, about the administrative progressive versus the pedagogical. And I see myself more in the pedagogical framework, that I want to change the actual teaching. You know, you can change, like, how many people are in the classroom, how many is this, and when are the tests, and all this administrative of forcing us to all fit into sort of a factory. Education has become a factory, and we have lost the art of the crafting of our children and the education based upon what are the needs for this child, this community. Let me give you an example. So let me go with today, though. We want to talk a little bit. The difference and definitions are equity, fairness, and equal. And I'm not even going to go into great detail. But when I talk about this, and I did my research, I mentioned about No Child Left Behind, and how that mandate was supposed to make sure that all children came up to a standard, and that they were going to be able to pass and have these graduating levels of academics. We're going to reduce the dropout rate. And yet in all this process, if we've reduced the dropout rate, now I'm not saying this, I'm just asking the question. If we've reduced the dropout rate, have we really increased their academic education? Have we lowered the standards to make sure everybody could pass? I didn't say that, but I asked it. Just the question. Because now we're trying to push everybody. Oh, and all the teachers. Oh, but look at your class. You didn't. So we're starting to push people faster than some people can think. And we need to realize that for education, not everybody learns at the same rate, same pace, or level. Now, so here's the question. As a teacher, am I supposed to be fair? Am I supposed to make sure equal or equitable? Let me just read the definitions. I'm not even going into, I've got synonyms, so we'll go with synonyms. Maybe I should also look up the antonyms. I'm really into language. That's another whole story. That goes back to my college days, way back even before in high school. But equity, the quality of being fair or impartial, impartiality and fairness. Well, how is that any different than equal? Let's look at those first. Equal is the same as. The same as versus equitable, being fair or impartial. Well, let's go look at fairness. Fairness is the state or condition of being fair, which I always tell my kids, don't use a definition that uses the word in it. And I was taught that in my days. So let's go on to the next part of it that says, free from bias or injustice and an even-handedness. All right, let's talk about what I did today. And I still have some of it to run over with my children. But you know what? I'm teaching online. I have 15 students. They are fifth graders, and they really have not had a face-to-face teaching since last March. And some of them have not had a face-to-face or real education since the summer of 2018, because here in my area, we had Hurricane Dorian on September 1st, the day before school was to open, and it did not open. And we have no school. So we are still struggling of even having a building and figuring out what we are going to do when they mandate us to go back face to face. That's a whole nother story also. So as I'm working with my students online, there would be times when I'm face to face that I am always having the children come and spend time with me. I really am making effort in my past since, my study was looking to prove what I already knew. Every child who gets time to spend with the teacher and talk with the teacher really does tend to do better, because now we've built a relationship, and where I may understand them and they understand me, and I get to ask questions that they might not feel as comfortable to answer in a large classroom setting. So in this process, you don't have to be in trouble to meet with the teacher. That's first, and that's number one. That children need to know, just because you're being called, oh, you're getting called to the principal's office. I'm not the principal, but it's that concept. When I get called to the principal and I'm a coworker and they say the principal needs to speak to you, I get butterflies still, and I'm an adult and I know I didn't do anything. But I want children to know they can come to me, they can talk to me, and there's nothing that they can't say. They might think they can't, and I'll just smile like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that. But I won't tell them, because you know what? As a kid, I probably said it and did it. That's why nothing that a child does really confuses me or upsets me, because I was the child who had to do, if I did anything that was disruptive, under the wire, because both my parents were in the education system, and they told me if you get in trouble at school, you're going to get in trouble at home. So I had to be low key. That's not always good. Sometimes it's better to get caught so you can be reprimanded and changed. So I love kids. There's not much that they do that disrupts me. So I love teaching because that. Back to what I did. So I had students, Friday is what we call Enrichment Friday. I give them different activities that are reinforcements. And on Friday, hopefully, that's my day to catch up on paperwork, plan for the future. I don't know when the last time I've really gotten to do what I'm supposed to do, but I try, because there's always interruptions. Students need you. But today was specifically targeted so that my children were going to get to spend individual time with me. 10 to 15 minutes if necessary. I was looking at what assignments were missing or incomplete. What is their behavior that is occurring while they are online with me, that it's sort of distracting for you, me, and the others, so that I could talk to them privately without always calling them out. Even though I had in the past, now we had some issues that got resolved, as well as we started a writing assignment, and I wanted to go over their brainstorming mind map graphic organizer, as well as what was their introduction paragraph and things that you can't do when you're not face to face. It was wonderful. I appreciated spending the time with these students. Now, there were some students who needed more time, but there were some students who were doing very well. They have nothing missing. All their work has been turned in. Is it fair that I talk to one set of kids that need me a little more help than those who don't? Do they get equal time? Because this child needed more to just catch up to what the others did. Do they both get equal? I set the timer, and so for these kids who only needed a little bit of my time, is it fair that they didn't get as much time with me? Those are the kinds of questions that when we start talking about wanting to make fair, equal, and equitable, have we really looked at the needs of the children before well, that's not fair. Well, I think everybody should get this. So I'm just asking the question. I'm just loving all my people who are following me and can comment. What are we going to do in renewing education and making an effort that while we have an opportunity to possibly change the way we have been doing things as we come out of COVID and virtual, go to this, that, and the other, can't we change and look at if we're wanting our students to meet this goal? Why is it everything we've done for the last 150 years has not really changed? And we're wondering why our education system is still not working. Just asking. So please like, follow, share, comment. Let's get this going. We can do this together. Like I said, democratic decision making, the more input we have from all of the stakeholders means we will have a better option that we can formulate together, even though it may be a smaller group who has to make the final decision. You can't make the best decision with limited access to information. Love you all. See you tomorrow. Thanks for sharing. Please share and comment.